Hello there, my friends. I'm Gosia from Cosmic Agency, and with this video we are going to finish our series on the pods, on the topic of the pods for now. Before, a short comment about the previous video about the maternal pods. I saw that some of you were commenting that there is no larger context to that video and that you didn't understand exactly what was meant. This has nothing to do with any transhumanism ideas or anything like that. These are not babies grown artificially somewhere for some strange reasons. I know there is no context to that video, but unfortunately I wasn't part of that conversation, so I have no more information in that area. I just added it to this pod series because it fit. But this basically means if, for example, and this was Aneeka's case, if, for example, a starseed wants to incarnate into the human mother, human family, and then, for example, something happens, the mother's body rejects it, or they want to abort it. So there is this opportunity for them to be extracted. Some of them do that, the extraterrestrials. They would take that fetus and would let it develop in their maternal pods. It's basically helping saving those fetuses to grow and to continue their life. Otherwise, they would die. And that's what happened to Aneeka. She continued developing on Toleka in Taygeta. They are fully activated Taygetans at this point. Okay, so they are not humans. Aneeka was fully Taygetan. So just wanted to clarify that. In this one, Aneeka will share some information about, first, holographic toys on board, and then the subject will develop into the immersion pods and immersion technologies. Now, there are different types of immersion technologies. I'm just going to say it here right away. The immersion types for entertainment, when you can go and recreate the world based on the data that you feed into the computer. You can create anything you want and you go there and you play. And the computer basically imposes by the frequency all the senses, all the sensory experiences for you there, including the touch, wind, etc. So that's for the entertainment type. Also to meet someone holographically, if you want to meet your family that is far away, or have some sort of a meeting with other races. So also you can use those immersion pods. And then, of course, as you know, there is an immersion pod technology for entry into Earth, and that's basically combining the medpod technology. You are going into this liquid in the pod the same way as when you are going to regenerate yourself in the medpod, and then using technology of the entertainment immersion pods, you go into the Earth matrix using previously chosen avatars. So that's what's going to be discussed here. One common here to mention is those immersion pods to go into Earth, as some people think, they are not something done against your will. No one imposes that on you. This is something you choose yourself, and this is the most common way for the entry for the starseeds on Earth. So I'm in immersion, for example, and I think it's a great technology. I'm happy that I came here this way. It was done by myself, by my own decision, and that's how it is. Also, to mention that in entertainment immersion pods, as you will see here, sometimes they can be a bit addictive to some people. Their line becomes a bit blurry. What's real, what's not, because you are living in those virtual worlds, so to speak. But as you will see here, Aneeka is explaining that they get actually tired of those immersion entertainment games. I was always saying to them and to Aneeka that if I was there, I would be using them all the time, because you can do anything. You can, for example, recreate yourself in New York and you have elephants walking the streets, and you can go play games like, for example, I know a stupid example, for example, go robbing banks or something, and you can do that. You can do that in those immersion games. But Aneeka says, they are tired of them. They are boring. That they know it's not the same. It's not real. So they don't use them anymore, and they go back to the basics. basics. They go back to the real, to the natural, to the artistic, as we always say. So anyway, enjoy the video. And with this video, one more thing very important. If you want to deepen the subject of the immersion pods as technology to go into Earth, Aneeka did three full videos, complete videos. I'm going to link them in the description box on this topic. Very, very thorough description of how it is done technologically, what is done exactly to the body and to the consciousness, how it rewires to the human avatar. Because here it's not really discussed in detail, okay? So in-depth description of those immersion pods in the description box, and also I'm going to make a whole playlist just dedicated to the pods. I think that's it. Enjoy it, and I'm going to see you in the next video, which I'm not sure what it's going to be, but for sure something exciting. And don't forget to subscribe to Mari's channel, Mari's SWARUU. Thank you very much. Bye. Originally in Spanish, 2020.
Taigueda's holographic computers can do virtually anything. You can imagine a talking pet as a companion or as a playmate for children. They're programmed to do whatever, usually to interface with the computer itself, where you talk to the imaginary pet and it gives the answers, accompanies you through the day, plays and everything. But it's a hologram, and kids love these things. It's like having cartoons on TV, but guiding them positively. And the parents have total control over it, or just simply to accompany whomever as a pet. Do you like a cartoon? You can have your favorite characters accompany you in your games. The computer projects them and varies their size and everything. You talk to them and they talk back. And you can even touch them if you program it. The computer imposes tactile sensations. It's like a less aggressive version of total game immersion, like the ones we've already discussed.
Don't the people feel a bit confused about what is a real thing and what is a hologram?
Yes, and that's the negative part of the system, and not only for children, for everybody, because you get disconnected. You don't know anymore what's real and what's not. And you start with a philosophical problem of what's real. Because, for example, if someone is extracted, they become engorged with immersion games. Not just the ones that are extracted, but it's an example, like addiction to video games. But as time goes by, it starts to lose value and remains just a toy. For example, I'm sitting here with you and I have the immersion or simulation controls at my left arm's reach. But I haven't used them for months. Yes, you lose interest. That's why we say we go back to the simple, the handmade. Why I don't ride my bike on a beautiful tree-lined path by the lake using the immersion. It would be fun for a while, like 2 hours, but it's not biking anymore. That's how I feel.
And does it happen a lot? If so, what do you do so it doesn't become too addictive?
It seems that the children already have something that stops that because you don't hear them obsessing too much. It does happen, of course, but it's like one more toy and a testament of how children are like that when you give them something and they end up playing with a cardboard box. It's the same here. Yassi herself prefers her real plastic dolls, although she could animate them with the computer.
And what exactly is the immersion pod program? Like the one through which you enter Earth?
It is tailored to the requirements and what the person wants. It is a machine that is like a med pod that keeps the body in suspended animation, keeping it healthy and in sense isolation, while the person's consciousness moves to have its attention on another reality. It is done through frequencies. The theory states or dictates that each person has an individual and unique frequency or range of frequencies. So a physical body is conditioned or designed only to be able to hold or host or react to a specific signal from the owner. So by making one person's frequency compatible with another person's frequency, the contact between soul, mind, and physical body can occur. That is, entering that body to be that person. Part of the work that the little grays called gardeners are hired to do is adapting a body to the entrance of a specific soul, like adapting an empty matrix body to the entrance of a walk-in who will use it for his or her own life experience. The process is extremely elaborate in describing how exactly with frequencies, but the basis is that the frequency of that person, we all have a personal frequency, is artificially made compatible with that of another body, sometimes very far from there, just as it is described in the movie Avatar. So a Tagetan person will be asleep in Timor in a pod, while operating a human avatar on Earth with its own distinct life. And this person may or may not know that he is in immersion. He or she may not remember details of said immersion either. In the case of Earth, they most commonly do not remember that they are in immersion because in and of itself, that is supposed to be the experience they seek. But the memory wipe is not complete, leaving the person with an inner feeling that something is not right, and that they're not the person they are on Earth, that there's someone else, somewhere else, and they keep looking up the stars for contact and a way home. There are at least hundreds of thousands of people in immersion on Earth right now, and of countless races, all using their own versions of the same technology. Immersion like this is not only used to enter another race, to be of that race for a while. It also serves or can be used to be another person entirely, even in the same place where you are in immersion. That is, you can be living and remembering everything in the same place, no longer waiting to be the person X for a while and generating another life right there as another person, and then get tired and go back to being the same person X as before. It is also used to be able to work in environments or on planets where the place and the environment is too hostile to be there with the natural or original body of the person.
Thanks. And when you are in a medpod, how is your body maintained exactly?
The muscular system is maintained by micro-discharges that stimulate muscle groups. This is nothing too advanced, since even on Earth they use electrical stimulation devices for exercise and fitness. Also, the internal organs and nutrients are passed through the same special liquid in which they are immersed as in the medpod for medical use. There are other immersion pods that are dry inside, but they're not used for long immersions. Although that is relative because time is malleable and personal, so a 1-week dry immersion may result in decades of life somewhere else.
And if the person you extract is in immersion, what happens then?
Immersion is more complicated from one angle and less from others. The starseed, when it dies on Earth, is supposed to awaken in the immersion pod, as it has served its lifespan on Earth. It does not have to be extracted. It just wakes up at home on the planets. He remembers who he is and why he came to Earth this way. It is one of the most common ways to enter Earth. It only conflicts when the extractee is in immersion and wishes to be extracted traditionally. It is possible and it is done, but you're faced with having two bodies at the complex dynamics of managing or being two at once. It is difficult and strange for many, and they prefer to avoid it. It is up to the person to be extracted what to do. The most ethical and advisable thing to do if you're in immersion is to fulfill your natural life cycle on Earth. But immersions have a serious flaw. Already inside, people create too strong an attachment to something that is not the reality, engaging in debates of what is real. I feel like that's like getting lost no matter how safe they are.
The experience is real though, right?
But yes, for example, a step down. What happens there is what happens there, and it is reality. And if he dies there, he does not come back here. He just goes back to the afterlife, and there he will decide what to do. And someone in immersion continues his life here if something happens to him there. And the problem is that from the perspective of someone in immersion, that's reality. So it doesn't matter as long as he lives. That profile then comes back to bite you because it leaves a trace of who it's supposed to have been. So, if you come back here and show your face, they will see you with a human identity and not the one here.
And how many Taigetans are there in immersion right now?
As I understand it, there are 2,370, if I'm not mistaken about the exact number. Some people have already been extracted, and others died naturally there and returned home naturally. Officially from immersion, no one new has come in from Taigeta in years, but this does not rule out Taigetan starseeds coming in naturally. There's another kind of immersions that are more playful or entertaining, where the person is just in a room that simulates the senses by isolating them from others, like the Star Trek holodeck, only much more advanced. These kinds of immersions are used for training of all kinds, or for communication with loved ones light years away. For example, a person can be here on a ship in Earth orbit 440 light years from home, and they can go into immersion and walk around their parents' house in Temer, or whatever. And there they can see their parents, who are also in immersion, and actually interact with them face to face. They all know it's an immersion, but they can touch, hug, talk to each other. Or you can all do the same thing, but on a beautiful beach. It's a very high-tech video call. As variants of this, there are the ones where you decide what you want to experience, whatever it is. Your imagination is the limit, and you go in there to have fun. It is also a high-tech video game, or you can use it just to relax, going alone to a favorite beach at the sea and feel the sand for healing. And from there, go to a mountain forest in an instant. The experience will be according to the data that you have, how complete it is. If you don't have all the data, the computer fills it in for you using the best information available. It's only as reliable as the data that feeds the computer.
And is it possible to get all the data?
I don't think you can ever have all the data. If you want to go and see what happened, that's another technology. It's the handling and time travel. I'm talking only about immersions, but time travel technology in itself is used all the time to feed data to the immersions, so they go hand in hand. But every technology has its problems, and this leads itself to abuse and the creation of nightmares in the interest of living them, and that can cause problems and even real-life trauma in a person.
And the data from a computer, how are they formed?
It is a creation of the world like a video game computer game does. It does not recreate the world in its entirety. I'm talking about this kind of immersion, not the kind of avatars I mentioned above, although it's all related. Here, I'm talking mostly about immersions for sports or training purposes.
So the data is collected through the observations by sand clock and not the people who lived that moment.
Yes, sometimes. At other times, it's just a recount or interpretation with the data that you have. Historical data of how people lived in the time of Sparta, for example. But that's for entertainment purposes with no historical validity. Or you can become a dragon and you can burn villages, or a fairy and grant wishes, or a strange animal with an umbrella for a tail. Whatever you can imagine, you can live it. Secret. It's fun. But after a while, it gets tiring. But other people can become addicted to it, being that their life is there and not in reality. This is the case for most people in a long immersion.